David Krejci came back from Czechia and looked like his old self, especially in Game 7 against the Florida Panthers. However, it wasn't enough to get the Bruins past the first round, and we wonder now if he will be back in black and gold next season. Let's talk about David Krejci on today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked Beat. Thank you for making Locked On Bruins part of your day every day, free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first ticket purchase at Game Time. As you can hear, still fighting some allergy symptoms, a cold, who knows. But we press on here on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast and discuss David Krejci, number 46, as we continue our player review series. And to start, having David Krejci back with the Boston Bruins this season was a gift. I didn't expect him to come back after making the move to Czechia to play for his hometown club in 2021-22. It was a dream of his to play over there before his career was over. And I thought that could be it for him, that he would play a season or two over there and then call it a career. But lo and behold, he came back. And a lot of people wondered whether or not he'd be the same player for the Boston Bruins as he was in the past, seeing as he is now in his, we could call them late 30s. The reality is David Krejci produced above his career averages offensively this season. 0.23 goals per game, which was up ever slightly from his 0.22 career average. 0.57 assists per game, which was up from 0.54, and 0.8 points per game, which was above his career average of 0.76. Overall, his seventh highest point total, 56 points in 70 regular season games. And again, David Krejci looked like the same David Krejci we've all known and loved over the course of his career. 16 goals, 40 points in 70 games played, with 112 shots to his credit as well. Just another fantastic season for David Krejci in black and gold. 16 goals, the most since he scored 20 in 81 games back in 2018, 2019. And 17 minutes and 11 seconds of ice time. I just love this guy so much. And I was so glad that he was back in black and gold for the Boston Bruins. In the playoffs, he chipped in 1 goal and 3 assists in 4 playoff games, but 3 of those points came in Game 7 against the Florida Panthers. 1 goal, 2 assists in that decisive Game 7. He was in on all of Boston's goals in that game. They lost 4-3 in overtime, but it was not because of a lack of effort on David Krejci's part. In that game, he scored Boston's first goal, power play goal from Dmitry Orlov and Pavel Zacha. He had the secondary assist on Tyler Bertuzzi's power play goal, and David Pasternak's go-ahead goal in the third period. Unfortunately, they couldn't keep it locked down. Now, his 2 assists in that game gave him 12 career assists in Game 7s, which is now the most all-time. He had entered that Game 7 tied with Jaromir Jagr and Doug Gilmour with 10 each. He now is the all-time leader in assists in the Game 7. Just vital to Boston's success here and in the past as well. And again, it's unfortunate that they ended their playoff run so early. And it's unfortunate that David Krejci wasn't able to appear in all 7 games for the Boston Bruins during the playoff run. And that's something that we will talk about here next on Locked On Boston Bruins. But first, a quick word about today's sponsor, which is Game Time. Game Time is the fastest growing ticketing app, and for good reason. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. They have killer flash deals on last-minute tickets. They have images of seat views and a lowest price guarantee that gives you the guarantee that if you find the tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Tickets are also sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but just create an account, redeem code LOCKDOWNNHL for $20 off at Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Boston Bruins part of your day every single day. Every dayers. Tomorrow on the show, you can expect a continuation of our player review series, and we'll be focusing on Pavel Zacha and how his first year with the Boston Bruins went. But let's get back to David Krejci here on today's episode, and let's talk about what didn't go well, maybe some areas for growth, if that's even necessary. What didn't go well was he had the lowest even strength shot attempt differential of his career at 48.1%. While his line of himself, Pavel Zacha, and David Pastrnak, they were the trio that played most together on the second line for the Boston Bruins. They were effective offensively. However, possession-wise, they weren't a very strong line, to be honest. They had a sub 50% shot attempt differential, meaning the opposition was getting more attempts on net with them on the ice than they were, which is kind of hard to believe, seeing as how, good those guys are. Krejci, again, played 44.6 of his shifts with Pastrnak and Zacha, and that line had a 48.2% Corsi rating. He played 15.7 of his shifts with David Pastrnak and Taylor Hall, 47.5% Corsi rating. In fact, the most effective line that we saw Krejci play on was with Taylor Hall and Jake DeBrusk, 54.1 Corsi rating for that trio. Actually, that's not true. Krejci played 16 minutes with Pavel Zacha and Jake DeBrusk, and they had a 58.8% Corsi rating. So perhaps we should have seen Pavel Zacha on the third line, maybe give Taylor Hall more time on the second line, bump Jake DeBrusk down. But at the same time, they still had some effective. It was still an effective trio. The Bruins, That second line, despite having a sub 50% shot attempt differential, they had a plus 22 goal differential when they were on the ice. Those guys scored 36 goals and allowed 14. So you can see there where looking at Corsi and shot attempt differential doesn't tell the full story. They still had a plus 22 goal differential, that trio of Krejci, Zacha, and Pastrnak. In all situations, David Krejci also had the lowest shot attempt differential of his career at 54.8, the third lowest. So again, perhaps not his greatest season defensively, but offensively still very effective, and that trio as a whole was pretty tight. And of course, one of the biggest things that went wrong for David Krejci this season was the fact that he was injured in the postseason. And he was asked about coming back next year, whether his decision will be based on health, physical and mental, and family decisions. In the immediate aftermath of Game 7, he said it was still pretty raw, and those are the types of questions that were already going through his head. And he's going to try to figure out over the next couple weeks, meaning from Game 7 up until now and until he makes a decision, because, quote, I don't want to let the team down. I thought maybe I did a little bit in the playoffs. I was supposed to be playing, end quote. So he was disappointed in himself, hard on himself for not being available for 3 of the 4 games against the Panthers. And he recorded points in only 2 of those games, although Game 7, like I said, was his best game of the series by far. One of his best games of the season. If you can't help the team, it's tough to be there but not really be there. So, again, David Krejci not getting any younger. He will, he's 37 years old, turned 37 back on April 28th. He has a ton of games under his belt. Really nothing to prove at the NHL level. He hit his 1,000th game this season and has won a Stanley Cup. Sure, you'd like to see him get another one, but if this is it, I believe he left it all out on the table and played as good as possible in that Game 7 against Florida. The big question, of course, is whether he and or Patrice Bergeron will be back next season. And we'll talk about that next. But first, a quick word about today's other sponsor, which is Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens has an amazing product that you need to check out if you're dealing with low energy, poor immune system. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you can absorb 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. Costs you less than $3 a day, and is cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. You can reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition with just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Just visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. That's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, let's wrap up today's podcast by discussing whether or not David Krejci will be back with the Boston Bruins next season. We learned around this time last year that he indeed was going to at least take a year off and head back to Czechia to play for his hometown club. He has said this time around that he will either play for the Boston Bruins or be done completely. He will be in the NHL. It will be with the Bruins, or he's going to call it a day. He's going to take some time to think about it, talk to his family, but he wants to make a decision soon. At the time, everything was super raw. He didn't really want to talk about it. He wanted to get away from everything, clear his head, think some things over, and really figure it out. Now, one of the challenges for him, he said this was one of his best years, but also one of the worst years. It was a real roller coaster for him. There were a few times this year that were disappointing, and if the team's not doing good, he wanted to just pack it up and go back. Now, obviously, that was rare, very few and far between instances. But, his family lives down in the Carolinas. They weren't right there with him in Boston. And from that standpoint, he admitted it was tough. His family's not right in the city, so it's basically like being on the road for all 82 games. He did say coming in every day, seeing the guys made it worth it. And I know for a fact that he was as disappointed as anyone that things didn't work out for the Boston Bruins. I know that he would have loved to have made good on this year. Everything in the regular season went so well. If they had only gotten over the hump in Game 7, we see now that Florida's in the conference finals. If they had made it to the Stanley Cup final and won, very easy to see a situation where David Krejci calls it a career and has zero regrets. The way they went out, there's always going to be that feeling of unfinished business, what could have been, whether or not he wants to go through the rigors of a regular season again just to try to get to that place, which of course is not guaranteed, or whether he is ready to pack it in and go full-time with his family. That remains to be seen. Whatever he decides, fully respect it, and I'm so thankful that he was able to be part of this past regular season. Next season, like I mentioned in the Bergeron episode, is the Centennial. Krejci, of course, was feted this past season for his 1,000th game. Maybe he wants to be part of this historic season and kind of put a bookend to his career by kind of celebrating how important he has been to Bruins history over the past almost 20 years. And of course, try to get one more shot at the cup, but we'll see. It's been over a couple weeks since the Bruins were eliminated. We could get word at any time as to whether he and Bergeron are coming back. So keep it locked to Locked On Boston Bruins for all the latest with regards to that. The Final Four is set with Dallas beating Seattle last night. It will be Dallas, Vegas, and Carolina, Florida, the first all Sunbelt Conference Finals. I watched a bit of Dallas, Seattle last night. It was really the first time I've turned hockey on since Boston lost. I think I'm going to root for the Stars. Be cool to see Joe Pavelski get a cup before he hangs it up, although he's still going really strong. They have a fun, exciting young core in Rupe Hintz and Jason Robertson, Jake Ottinger, Miro Heiskanen. And it'd be cool to have Tyler Seguin win again, although it would be weird to have him have more cups than Bergeron and Krejci. But I think I'm rooting for the Stars for sure. And also, friend of the podcast, Rich Peverly, works for Dallas as well. So it'd be cool for them to win. I've seen a lot of talk about, Vegas made it to the Final Four. The Bruins should have kept Bruce Cassidy. It's a what-if-ism. And I mean, you never know. I don't think they would have had the regular season they had with Bruce Cassidy, but perhaps he could have pushed some different buttons in the playoffs. We know that he was very reluctant at times to switch up the line, so that could have benefited Boston. Either way, it's a moot point, and I'm rooting for the Dallas Stars. I hope you're all doing well, having a great week so far. Send some positive vibes that I can clear up this congestion soon. Apologies for dealing with that here on the podcast, but it's a daily show and we press on despite illness and Boston being out of the playoffs. If you're looking for something to watch, I highly recommend the Michael J. Fox documentary on Apple TV. We watched that last night. Tugged at my heartstrings so much. I love him. He's a great guy and just a really good watch, and I highly recommend it. All right, so that's it. We'll be back tomorrow with Pavel Zacha Day here on Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.